So, ladies and gentlemen, here we have all our panelists for our first panel discussion, Smart Factory Revolution. Please give a huge round of applause as we begin our first panel discussion for the day. Come on, ladies and gentlemen, a huge round of applause. Over to our moderator, Mr. Ronak.
Perfect. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot for the panel. I've taken the liberty of just moving myself a little so that I can see all of you. Otherwise, it felt like a classroom to me. But thanks a lot. First of all, apologies. I was the person who came last today. The Bangalore traffic made sure I did some cardio before I showed up. Took me a couple of hours. So a lot of big words have been said before we started this panel, right? As the guy who's the youngest on this panel, I actually want to decode these big words because most of these words don't mean anything to the general audience, right? So I will be relying on this panel to first break down what Industry 4.0, automation, its relevance for electronics really means, make it real for people, and then also maybe at the end come up with a path that the country can walk on to build a competitive, globally competitive ecosystem that can help us achieve the dream of getting $500 billion of electronics production. So while we link it to the reality of $500 billion, the path has to be realistic and has to be sort of something that we incrementally walk on, right? So to begin with, Mujib sir, I would like to maybe throw the first question to you, which was, if you were to think about automation, Industry 4.0, and all of these words, how does it apply to the electronics industry today? Which part of the ecosystem benefits the most from it?
Thank you. As we know, the electronic industry is going through strategic transformation, right? Because of the domestic demand increasing and the global supply chain realignment. So now the industry automation or IoT is no more optional, right? It's must, right? For that we need to have self-reliance. If I take that question in 4 elements, right? For the electronic industry, where the technology adoption or automation or IoT should enable is one, the supply chain, right, which is critical for this industry. How this technology or IoT or automation can enable the competitiveness, secure supply chain, resilient supply chain, that's one of the areas. Second area, obviously on the manufacturing facility, factory automation, which increase the productivity, throughput, improve the time to market, and quality, right, and data-driven, so on. The third will be on the workforce deployment, because we all know the demand-supply gap on this industry workforce deployment, right? How this technology can enable the skill set, deploy the skilled resources, and utilize them properly with technology, data-driven analytics, so on. The last one is the sustainability, right? When we are growing this phase, what we are growing now, the technology should enable us on the sustainability as well as on the cybersecurity area. I think these 4 areas which think this IoT and industry automation should enable for the electronic industry.
Got it. If I was to double click on the part of supply chain, right? What within the supply chain can automation really help improve?
See, when I say supply chain, it's end to end, right? It starts from the customer and it ends with customer, right? It's a complete business process, right? How the sub-supplier enable the growth phase for us, right? Because they should be part of the growth part. It's not only just the electronic manufacturer, right? And we all know how our supply chain is currently, ecosystem is developed compared to other side, right? That's where how the complete value system, how we are going to enhance through this technology adoption is the important factor for this.
Got it. Got it. Thank you, sir. Ashok, sir, to you specifically, as someone who has sort of dabbled with actually implementing some of these things in a factory, right? What kind of benefits are you seeing when it comes to implementation of automation? And what learnings would you sort of want to share with others who are going to start this journey?
Hello, good afternoon or good morning, everybody. Means it's my pleasure to be a part of this session and also had a few interactions with some of the colleagues in the panel as well earlier. I would just take one step back, right, before I circle around your question. I mean, throughout my journey in the last 3 decades, I can see some people who may not be able to relate it to me, but for your information, I come from an era where there were typewriters, 5.5-inch floppy drives, right? Data was not even a word that we had heard about. But very glad to see how the systems have evolved over a period of time. In this journey, I firmly believe and have seen that the simple steps of automation, right, are a good starting point to transform and translate into the real business cases. It's not about having a good automated factory, which is showcase factory, but there are some small steps. And now to come to the point that you raise, I have seen across 4 different challenges. And before again, one thing again comes to my mind, some of you, I think today we talk about India's GDPs and things like that. And some of you may concur with me that there are around 5,500 companies who are listed on stock exchanges, Bombay Stock Exchange specifically. 47% of those companies have revenues, and please note these words very carefully because that's what will drive the next topic. 47% of these companies have revenues less than 100 crores, and 75% of these companies have their EBITDAs less than 100 crores. So when you see both of these things together, we are primarily skewed more on the left side. And that is where the challenges arise. There are corporates who have good technologies, good processes. So let me list some 4 things that comes to my mind. Is number 1, we are a growing economy which has led to the fragmented shop floors, means unconnected factories, as Mujahid also told about supply chain. Our processes are not connected. And I would caution my colleagues and also the people who are listening to me, don't attempt to connect those at once, because there's nothing like that, which is a fully connected factory if you're not there. So my guidance to resolution to one of these things is that drive the traceability first, which is the movement of materials, processes, and people. Second thing which comes to my mind is when we start doing that, I have come across challenges which are skill gaps. Now again, this is a big subject, right? We cannot send people for training because I think you remember EBITDAs versus revenue skewedness, right? It will be injustice to ask to the company management to spend money right when it's not there. So my experience has been that transform the culture in your company from the mindset of operator to technician. And start counting how many technicians you are building over years and months together. Because those are the people who will help you to drive the processes or automation inside the company. The point number 3 which comes to my mind as I started with is data poverty. While we are all using mobile phones in today's date and things like that, but we are giving a lot of data, but we don't still understand the significance of data. The data collection has become cheaper, but how do we use the data? So what I have experienced and what I have seen breakthroughs coming through, drive data for quality first. Because people start measuring data for productivity and cost, and then they get lost into the process. So if you start with collecting the data for quality first, productivity and cost will follow. And one last thing, which is the first point where I say the skewedness of our financial matrices, is there is always and there will always be a conflict between the capex and the ROI. And my suggestion again is build systems for yield, or quality or cost of poor quality, then it is much more easier to get towards the journey of where do we take this automation forward.
Got it. No, brilliant insight, sir, and it opens up a lot of things for me to ask, but I'll come back to you after talking with other panelists as well. Aditya, in our previous chat, we talked about how do we think about this whole ROI on investing in automation, right? So what's your view? How should a business who's thinking about going down this journey think about the ROI estimation on something like this?
Yeah, thanks, Ronak, for that question. So most of the times, especially when we see automation is directly connected to an ROI directly linked to a manpower. So this is how we should not see automation as. So automation with respect to electronics or I 4.0 is more to do with your quality efficiency and your global competitiveness. Because in electronics, if you see, you have a low volume, high mix production. Quality issue across any supply chain, like what Mujib said, if across the value chain, if there is a quality issue, then there is a huge, I don't know, millions of dollars which goes into callback, and you know companies who have got shut down because there was a quality issue with some electronic parts as well. So I think this ROI part is very, very important in MSMEs, which is a critical part of this whole value chain, where ROI is usually linked to manpower or the labor. So I think this is where we need to disengage and see automation as an insurance to quality and global competitiveness. So this would be my viewpoint on ROI with I 4.0, like what Mr. Agarwal and Mujib Agarwal already said, that automation is not just lights off factory. So automation has to be something which is modular, stepwise for MSMEs. Of course, for large players who have all the wherewithal to do the lights off, that's okay. But the MSMEs, this would be a really core piece in the whole puzzle.
Brilliant, brilliant. And I'm guessing you're talking about quality and throughput, because without that you can't link into the GVCs, which are what are driving the electronics manufacturing today, right? So scale will not be possible unless you're able to sustain quality, you're able to sustain throughput, and then build your reputation as a firm that allows you to link into a GVC and then scale then on.
Yeah, so specifically speaking about electronics industry in India, now you see we are at a very, very pivotal point where we are moving from an assembly hub to a manufacturing hub. So I think this is the point from where we need to look the automation from. So if everybody across the value chain do not adopt automation, we continue to be assembly hub to the world, not the manufacturing to the globe.
Got it. Brilliant. And let me bring in Gomtesh on this. So you mentioned that culture of automation, right, to achieve scale is a mindset issue at some level, right? There is the physical aspect of it, there is the capital aspect of it, where you put money behind it, resources behind it, but you also need to start investing in the mindset building for within the factory, within the firm, that enables them to go down this journey. Maybe you can help us understand what this mindset is, and also for, let's say, a small firm that's going to get into this journey, what does the roadmap even look like? What do I start doing? What does the leadership do? What does the shop floor do? Right? Maybe you can walk us through that.
Thanks, Ronak. I think it's a very, very important point. Today, when we look at electronics manufacturing, per se, the mindset of Indian manufacturers today is more aligned towards maybe the major automotive industry or the general industry, pump industry. But when we look at the electronic industry, I believe the volumes are massive. It's uncomparable to what we produce in the automotive industry. So here comes the change in the culture itself, wherein we should think in a direction wherein how are we going to cater to these kind of volumes. So a mindset needs to be definitely changed. We need to get aligned to the global manufacturing system. Data manufacturing is data-driven manufacturing is today being spoken at every I can say vertical. So what is data-driven manufacturing? Today, when we talk about machines aligned in thousands, are we going to use the data only for I can say improving my productivity? No. Like what Aditya and Agarwalji also said, that it should come more from the quality perspective, wherein there will be no rejections. And coming to your point of how does a MSME look at it? I think it's a fantastic opportunity, the kind of growth what India has been seeing post-COVID. I believe there are enormous opportunities. And we are slowly coming out of those, so-called corporates only controlling this electronics. I believe there are hundreds of MSMEs coming into this, and there is a lot of opportunity. One key word I strongly believe that, robotic automation is playing a very, very vital role here. When I say robotic automation, it doesn't mean, we are going to cut down on the manpower. Probably deploy the robots where it's actually needed. That means, robots can be always used for, where a human being cannot work in a hazardous environments. So a small investment in such MSMEs also means a lot. And it's also, building a kind of small ecosystem within the MSME to ensure consistent supplies at qualities. That's my take.
Got it, got it. No, thanks a lot. Ritesh sir, I would maybe come to you as someone who works for a company that manufactures across the world, right? So Bosch has operations in every corner of this world, I would say. What do you see is stopping large investment in automation from coming into India?
Okay, let me start again, going back step behind. First of all, thank you for having me here, and I share this space with many of you who have contributed. He talked about 3 decades, I talk about 2.5 decades staying in industry. I also come from the space where typewriters were there. And typically I'm 20 years in Bosch, and before that I was with Mitsubishi. I worked in multiple locations, including abroad. Now coming to the point, what drives us here? There's a lot of changes happened. What has not happened over the last 20 years has happened over the last 5 years, even for multinational company like Bosch. I remember even from Bosch India, when we were in the global community, how we were heard and now what we are heard. There is a difference in perspective. And that difference has come from the governance by government. So that we have to acknowledge this, and I fully acknowledge this. So coming to the why part, since I am coming from auto space, currently for last 2 years, I am leading the only manufacturing plant of Bosch India in Nagnapura Electronics City, which is a 15 years old company. Coming from the why part of auto space, I have to give this context to answer your question. Why we need to be the player what we want to be, and this cannot happen with multi-conglomerate like Bosch, Siemens, or Conti. Yeah? This has to be with complete ecosystem. If you talk from auto space, there is a very different line left between auto space and any other industry. I remember 5 years back, I was leading the supply chain for powertrain business for Bosch India. And we have to run the business with semiconductor supplies from global scale, 50% of the total requirement. I was with every OEM, understanding the production plan, going to their production line and deciding their business. And that's how industry learned the competition doesn't come from demand, the competition comes from supplies. And there's a very thin difference between the car and mobile phone, which people never imagined. The supply ecosystem is the same, who supply to auto industry and who supply to consumer electronics. And the competition is not coming from demand space, it comes from supply space. And from there we run on the supply chain ecosystem topic start getting heard in many locations, many communities. And this also created a lot of demand in other industry like consumer electronic, mobile phone, laptops, white goods, etc. Now coming back to your question, for auto space, why we need this? India is now 4.2 billion vehicles. China is 30 billion vehicles. Worldwide we make passenger cars around 76 million passenger cars. India should grow by 4 to 6 billion in a 4-wheeler market. And in 2-wheeler, we are now the single largest player emerging up. 2 things are changing. One thing is the electronic content in the vehicle is improving. In 2-wheeler, we started with 10%, moving to 40-50%. A lot of players are getting in for electronic content. The same thing goes for passenger car. Now you come to the question what Bosch has learned on automation. I fully agree the base of success is the process excellence. We have been in the operational excellence of lean process maturity for right person, right process at the right place with the lowest quality, with zero quality defect. This has to be fundamental before we talk about digitization. And the second important topic is when you build a digitization, it has to yield to the business goals. Now the challenge what has come now is the differentiation between the scale. We talk about speed, scale, and sustainability. How we do in Bosch, we say it's lead like Bosch, work like Bosch, win like Bosch. In the leadership, it's always focused about people and technology and innovation. And this goes hand in hand. Whether it's people in the shop floor or people in the leadership, we need a common mindset and a common purpose. And you need to think, this is what makes India different than China. China was talking about the volume, value of the quantity of labor. Here we are talking about the quality of the labor. And this is how we need to develop people, technology, and innovation hand in hand. When you get into work, it's not about working to develop self-reliant ecosystem. It's about visibility of ecosystem end to end. And those words are gone when you work on forecasting. You should be ready when customer wants you to be ready. And many times even customer doesn't know what he wants. So there is thin line between B2B and B2C. And so that's where you need the scale. And then you come to the winning part. You can only win by quality leadership, cost leadership, and the market leadership where you shape the market. So coming to automation we started 7 years back. Our machines are connected. What it has yielded in a low-cost location, we are able to manage with 35% of less labor. We are working on 80% contract labor who are not more than 2 years in the business. We have all programming done in the machines. All inter-machines are connected in a global landscape. So once I know the defect happening in one location in Germany, our operator knows immediately to correct the programming, and this gets automatically corrected. And we have done this, and we have reduced the labor cost. And this has helped to not only multiply the quality, but also the volume. And going forward, the point comes in, you said that about data uses. Very important is before you generate the data, you should know how to use the data. And that's the application portion where we need to understand how we use this data at the right place in the shop floor. And once this learning curve gets in, then it gets multiplied. So typically, to conclude what I said, you can lead work when provided we are able to use the automation in a shop floor to improve the quality of life, the quality of a person who is working on the machine in the shop floor, and then you get an automation benefit. Quality is hygiene, but it also leads to a multiplication of scale, well supported by government policy to improve the scale not only for domestic, export, so you need to convert and then divert to the domestic demand because scale is a must for automation.
Understood, sir. So just staying with you for a couple of more thoughts. One was there are smaller firms that link into the supply chain. There are larger firms like Bosch that are building these supply chains, right? For a company like yours, what is it that's going to help you going from manufacturing in India for India to manufacturing in India for the world and then scaling in that way?
So I think I talked about Bosch in India generates 5% of the total turnover of Bosch. And if we have to scale up, we have to go in the double digit of 10-15%. India's story is different, global story is different. Global there is a slowdown in the market. We are not growing more than 1 to 2%. Capacities are idle in Europe and the rest of the world. Nobody will give orders to us until we are competitive to the landed cost, or why they should give job to us when their machines and the capacity is idle. In order to do so, we need a policy where our landed cost at first level is competitive for the structure to be closed in high cost location so that we can be more reliable and generate that trust with the OEMs that India can supply to the world. This trust yet to be generated. Of course, intentions are very positive, but somebody to close the structures in Europe, it requires a heartful decision. It's not so easy, yeah? Because you're going to send people home. That's a hard spot my colleagues in Europe are working on. The second topic is to get the topic about, we talk about low volume but high variety. And that's the word is flexibility. And there the resilience portion gets in where every supply chain need to be visible in the control tower panel, because every person, that's the differentiating factor we need to generate from India. We don't work on 3 months, 6 month frozen period. We work on 1 week frozen period and able to generate what you want. Unless until we create those differentiating factor as an ecosystem, we won't be able to make into global space.
Got it. And sir, I know you have to leave, so I'm going to sort of spend more time with you because then I have more time with others after you leave as well. Which is on the idea of becoming competitive to the extent where it makes sense for a company like yours to move larger order volumes to India, right? So there are, I mean, at Fed we think about disabilities in two fronts. One, we think about scale disability, and then we think about structural disabilities.
Yeah.
As scale develops, certain things will get cheaper because of economies of scale, but there are structural disabilities that are regulation driven, that no matter what the scale is, will remain in the ecosystem, right? So what are some of these structural disabilities that are affecting our cost competitiveness, and how much are they affecting our cost competitiveness?
I think we spoke with some of us in the lounge. We need to inject the money to get the money out, yeah? To inject the money, we are talking about not only manufacturing, but also design. So we have to create an end-to-end ecosystem where we talk about designing structures local, in the low-cost location, not in the high-cost location. And for all designers to move into this, we need to have a government supporting scheme to the weakest link or to the backward link in design and the most weakest link in the supply chain. So this requires injecting money, and then only you develop the base of the success, yeah? So the point is, unless manufacturing has just started, otherwise what was happening in the past, the whole manufacturing products was developed in a high-cost location and you copy with pride in a low-cost location. And over the last 2 years, I am seeing that the time from developed and developing country, the line is becoming very thin. And now you want to launch a product directly in low-cost location. So what is important is to move end-to-end, which is design, manufacturing, and sales. And the IPN, we call it International Product Network, should emerge from China-India network. China is way forward. They already started this 5 years back. India has to get it. So to ask your question on the basic structural cost, besides the infrastructure, we talked about logistics, transportation, and the government regulation of customs and all those areas, besides the power, everything. Government has to work with industry and the financial institution, all three as a partnership, where we develop the base end to end and generate the production for the rest of the world.
Got it. Perfect, sir. Thank you. Prakash sir, coming to you now. Again, Siemens gives you a bird's eye view of what's happening across the world. You get to see how different geographies are on different paths to automation, some ahead of us, some behind us, etc. Right? So where do you see India in this automation journey? How far are we, let's say, from our competitors in China and Vietnam? And then to get to the levels where they are, right? What's stopping us?
Okay. So firstly, I'm sorry, my throat is not that great, so pardon me. You also, Ronak, told that we should not use as much jargon, so I'll try that as well. See, if you look at it from a perspective of India, I would divide it into two segments: what the MSME does and what the larger companies are doing. And the China strategy or a Vietnam strategy, okay, China strategy was completely different. And if I have to look at China, then they are way ahead of us in terms of understanding the ecosystems, rightly investing on the ecosystems, having right strategies to get the right quality into the market. They have the end-to-end, like design to delivery, the whole ecosystem there. Vietnam, in a way, is following, and we are, in a way, in that journey. This is across whether it's a large firm or a MSME. India today has another major advantage, although statistics was given. We have a large variance of small companies with small EBITs, and we have large companies also with small EBITDAs, but getting into large volumes, right? And how we should see this as the initial phases. And this is something that is normal. It's not something abnormal. And this is the journey that every economy will take. Where I see is an advantage in this is we are much later in the start point, which means whenever we invest in the green field, we have an advantage. We don't start from the baggage, we can develop something new. And that's where I see the advantage being there. And it is that race in the right investment in the right way that we have to drive, which will really give us some advantage. Now, your question more was, we have a bird's eye view, and how is the adoption happening? One of the major, let's say, insights that I got is today people are in India, right, aware of what automation can do. And automation I'm using freely, but automation is on two splits. One automation which most of us understand is physical automation, which means making physical movements which is manual into a more, let's say, motorized view. Robots, machines could be one of them. Another is data-based automation, right? And the way you should look at it is systemic in nature, both of this hand in hand. People understand this. And one of the core aspects of this is the data strategy itself. And I have seen our companies, whether it's smaller, medium scale, as well as large scale, they have understood that you have to have a data strategy. And in my opinion, that will be one key point, start point, which will help manufacturing become better, okay? Which will help us get to the quality levels that we have to set standards for. Interestingly enough, whichever KPI you use, data, whether you're getting for quality or manufacturing or maintenance or whatever it is, cost is once. So you have to have that strategy in place. And I think that is the opportunity, and most of us are in that journey. That will help us leapfrog.
Got it. And let me ask you the 500 views to 50,000 views question that's going around, which is how does AI integrate into all of this data that we are generating? How do companies start thinking about utilizing AI, new models that are coming out every week?
Okay, so like the GPTs that we are today used to, these are built on models which are perceptive to social information, financial information instruments that we have. It's very different from the industrial information. I'll just give you an example. We were again talking this in the lounge. When is data generated? When there's an action. So when I make a UPI transaction, there is an action. When I do a social media post, there's an action. And in industrial environment, action is happening every second. There are people who are, producing phones, ACs in seconds. It is repetitive information is what is the understanding that we have as humans, but there are a lot of variance in the data. So the way in which you, if you go into details of AI, you let's say, segment information in a particular way, and that's how AI works. That complete model changes in the industrial environment. And we don't have the data to create those models. So if you look at most of the companies today in manufacturing who are really wanting to do something different in AI, they are building use cases. They are creating those models. It can be from, for example, safety, right? As a person going into a non-safe space, you can use AI there. This is image-based AI. You can use data to have better quality. So there are self-healing machines and self-maintaining machines. There are machines which are predictive in nature. Again, you use AI there. It's very different model than a model of GPTs today, okay? So the key there is data. And data is not available, and data is IP also. So if you ask me, I would say we are in the early stages, very early stages. I would say we will be able to leverage what we are using as models or the technology that is coming in as GPTs into the industrial space very, very fast. If we have the right data and the right security norms in place. So then, putting those models becomes very, very easy. It'll be easily available for us. So that's where I see the play of AI coming into manufacturing.
Got it, got it.
Just one more insight. When I say manufacturing, also design. Yeah?
Yeah. I'll come back to the IP point because I'm guessing anonymized data aggregated at an industry level will help train models, and right now companies might not be doing it, right? So building any model factory by factory, company by company is very difficult because AI models require large amount of data. So I'm sure there is some role that you might see government play in something like this.
So first of all, this again depends on what kind of information that you're getting out. Like for example, if you take a large metrics, which says as government for a particular industry, the amount of capex that I'm giving to the output that is coming out, is it a benchmark? What is the benchmark that I can set? That will be a different KPI metrics that you're trying to drive, which can actually come out through basic share of data, right? It's to say that I have so much thousands of machines, it's having X productivity which is internally measured, and this is the throughput output, this is my quality metrics, and this is the industry I'm working for. And if you have this across industry, then you have a model created which says capex input to output, and then there is a metrics that you can create to say moving up or down. The second level is to say I am manufacturing a phone, and I have that IP which is mine. I will manufacture the best of the phones. And I have a process information which is close to me, which I have defined, which is going to be making me better than what China is itself. So when something's unique comes, government cannot do much, it should not do. And it's about understanding where you have to play and where you don't have a room to play. Another thing is privacy of data, right? So where this information needs to be shared. This is another aspect that we need to be aware of. I can only say that governments, like European government or German government to be precise, is very, I don't want to use the term, but a little bit regressive in nature, very, let's say, closed. They want to be open. And there is other side of things where they're very open and there you need control, right? And we are hearing this every day, kind of investment that's going there and the data privacy norms there. In fact, in those cases, it's like, let's disrupt the system, and if it fails, we'll control it. That's another mindset. So we need a balance of this, and this is understandable for us, perceivable for us when it is personal data privacy. It is not perceivable today when it is data privacy of a company very easily, or the process, and so on and so forth. That is a space that will get disrupted, and that needs a different mindset.
Got it. Thank you, sir. Sir, coming to you, I mean, the three pillars that are driving the growth story, right? There's industry, there's government, and there's academia. And you represent academia on this panel for us. What role do you see academia sort of playing as we prepare for the next journey for India?
Thank you. If you look at the manufacturing value chain, there are 4 elements. So one is somebody has to design the product, because that is finally the product makes customers fulfill their needs, and also it brings the profit. To make the product, there are 3 essential elements, that is process, machine, and the place, the factory. Right? Now, what is happening in this, we try to solve the challenges with respect to product. So wherein the data is getting converted into a design, the process wherein the knowledge is generated, how to convert the raw material into the value added product or functional, integrate, how to integrate the functions. The third element is the people, because the people, other than people, everything is dead body, right? So somebody has to use it and meant for somebody, and somebody has to operate it, and somebody even dispose it. The last one is the production, where this all the capex comes, machinery, supply chain, the factory operations and all comes. And now, all these three elements have built-in challenges one has to address, and while addressing, we three elements like academia, research institute, and the industry have our own role, and at the same time, we also have a collective responsibility. If you expect that academia will make the people industry ready, I think it's too much to expect. The reason is in engineering, unfortunately, whether we like it or not, engineering, it never be 1 + 1 = 2. It's always either 2 plus or 2 minus. No matter whether you make electronic components or you are making just water bottle. So academia is to teach the kids, the graduate engineers or the technicians to understand the reasons behind it. Why this is not 2, it is always 2 plus or 2 minus. Whatever we for 160, 170 credits we earn is only to teach this. So how effectively academia could able to teach these passing out engineers so that they can recognize if not it's 2, it is either 2 plus or 2 minus, why and what are the avenues to bring back to 2. I think this is a big responsibility on the academia. But this is again they teach in a general perspective. I call it as again 5 F's. Just to easily remember, one is function, then geometry, that is the form, then third one is the flow of energy, electrons, whatever is there. Then the last, third or fourth one is the physics or the science behind it. The last one is the fabrication, right? If we expect academia to teach everything, it is not possible and it is to be customized. So in the earlier days, maybe 30 years, 40 years old, typically what was the structure? The structure was there were several CPSCs were there. When I passed out from engineering, mostly we were recruited as a graduate engineer trainee or the management engineer trainee. At 2 years, these engineers were placed on job training. If somebody became a product designer or somebody became a manufacturing engineer or somebody became a planning engineer, it is only because of this 2 years rigorous training. Unfortunately, that is not there now. Now, industries expect that graduates comes out of college, he should be employable, he should be ready to deliver. If that is the case, industry expects, I think it's too much expectation from the academic school. And at the same time, if I teach maybe 25 years, 30 years old syllabus, because in our education system, whether I like it or not, I did not become an engineer because I wanted to become an engineer, because it was decided by my father. Majority cases. If I became a doctor, it is because my mother wanted me to become a doctor. So naturally, that is the society that we are, let us accept the fact. So we need to build an opportunity at the academia by connecting these, all the three elements. If really wanted the manufacturing HR, no matter whether you are electronic component manufacturing, space components, or aerospace, even for general engineering components. I think we need to go back, the industries has to go back to academia to facilitate how best these resources could be utilized. I'm sure because now universities are also become very flexible. They've introduced a lot of kind of internship programs, then work on job. Even now companies, majority of the companies kind of stopped recruitment campus interview. Rather they started internship. Internship is a low risk opportunity for the company also. You can give them internship. So maybe you have 10 people, you are given interns, maybe 5 you find them. I think nothing wrong, you can absorb them 5 because these are already proven on job. I always look at that HR development for the manufacturing houses is collective responsibility of all the academia and research and industries.
Got it. No, thanks a lot, sir. And this is the beauty of a diverse panel, right? I get to play live paddle here by tossing it to the industry and asking, okay, when you look at academia and hiring people, what is it that you truly expect coming off from the engineering colleges, etc.? And then what kind of training are you having to do, and how are you thinking about that investment in your business? Because obviously, day one, no one is giving you the productivity that you want, so it's an investment that you're making. So how are you thinking about ROI on something like that? Maybe Mujib sir, I start with you.
So the resources are investment, as you said, right? And we can have a state-of-art machine, factory, but without right resources, right skill, it's all dead, as my panelist has said, right? We always do the mix, right? Skilled people, experienced folks from the industry we hire. Parallelly, we hire from the colleges or universities. It's basically to ensure the volatiles of these attritions or absenteeisms are managed. That's a reality, right? We can tell, no, we have a commitment. So the thing, yes, we do have a commitment. We have industry and institute relationship. We co-sponsor the programs in engineering institute. But the reality is, why we hire is, so we train them, we develop them, and they are in the systems which can bring the stability in our workforce management. That is one of the key factors, right? Second is, this young people, we call Gen Zs, coming from the colleges, they have a different thought process, right? They challenge the status quo, right? That's what we need for the innovation, right? That is what we promote, right? We empower them, drive for the changes. So these are the two reasons we hire the people from the institute, right? For our business processes across, right? In the supply chain or manufacturing or all the functions. That's what we do.
Got it. Ashok sir, coming to you again on the same topic. I have not worked as long as you have. I have about a decade here. But at least in my career, I've always seen every panel I attend, industry-academia partnership needs to happen. And I'm sure you've seen it in the 30 years that you have been attending such panels, right? Why does it not happen?
Yeah, I think Dr. Muthiah has shown a very difficult topic, right, for all of us. And I would not say it has not happened, because being on a panel with ICEA, and if I remember in 2000s, is it working?
Yes.
In 2015-16, a skill development mission was done, and I think there was a very good partnership between the industry, the policy makers, and I think the skill development program came in. And even if I look back yesterday, and you might be all be knowing about the AI mission, and you were talking about data, that how do we make large language models. I don't exactly remember the names, but there are 4 more missions which government is about to launch. What is India Prosperity 47, and then health, education. So things are happening. And I would say one of the most latest things which has been good, and I think people might be using it, the government came up with this NAPS schemes. And what is really good about this scheme is that, see, it all depends how do we use it, right? The intent, I think the company where I come from, our first value is basically good intention, so I think that motivates us to do many things. But what I see in this NAPS policy, the beauty of the scheme is, you get ITIs also under the same scheme, you get diploma engineers also under the same scheme, and you get engineers also under the same scheme. And what we are trying for the last few years is to get those engineers to that NAP scheme and train them, means they are on the job. And I am not seeing that they are not reluctant in what job they are given to. And I have seen that we had been able to convert most of those as junior engineers and technicians. So I think things are happening between the academia, the policy, and the government. And we need to be more positive about it, that how do we use it more further to strengthen. But I am quite happy with the way things are with supporting the industry, academia, and the policy-making decisions.
Got it, got it. No, thanks a lot. Aditya, coming to you. You work with companies, convincing them to automate. So you have let's say a one-on-one rapport of what's happening in their head when they're thinking about these issues, right? What are some of their biggest apprehensions as they're trying to go down this journey?
you're specifically talking with automation or
Automation,
with
automation.
academia?
I'm bringing it
So-
back to automation now.
Yeah, see, whenever, this is a good question again. So, whenever we speak about automation, so at different industries, I would say the tier 1 industries, the automation of objective is different. The MSMEs, the objective of automation is different. So, it really depends on, because when you talk to an entrepreneur who is running his own company, so when you speak about automation, most of the time we see, I have no generation 2 to run my business, so I'm no longer interested, so I'm happy with what investments I've made and the money I'm making. So I think basically there is a cultural change what we need to bring in, especially with these fast-paced manufacturing also. And if I have to link it to academia also, what we just spoke before, so this is more about unskilling and reskilling ourselves. The industry also, the people, the mindset needs to keep on evolving, because the discussion what I heard, there is a gap between the exit of the institute to the entry of the industry. So there is a gap which actually we are speaking of bridging, because if you see any conventional manufacturing setup, what probably was the focus of academia is no longer there. So when these mindsets come with the conventional thing into industry, trying to bring in decisions, so you see a lot of conventional things happening. So if you want something which is out of the box, or I 4.0, because we came from I 1.0, 2, 3, 4, 5, and we are already talking I 5.0. As we speak, it's already I 5.0. So what data can run the machine on its own, that's what the co-panelists also spoke. So this actually requires a mindset, the cultural change across, starting from academy to the industry, people who are taking the decisions, to see not ROI just as I put money here, so 3 years down the line is that money back with 15% more. So this is something becomes a very, very difficult point to convince, of course, for any buddy on the panel. There are some decision makers or some people who are selling solutions, so they always face this question. So is there more which I am putting in which is coming back? So I think there are a lot of intangibles that we need to see when there is ROI calculations which are being done. And that's actually happening in electronics industry, if I have to say. That's what the co-panelist also spoke, Mr. Sinha spoke about how the investments are actually helping him to see faults in the other plant which can replicate here. So these are investments which are not directly tangible. So this is something we need to convince the industry that there are things which you need to see beyond.
Got it.
Yeah.
Got it. You raised a very good point, which is unskilling and reskilling kind of a thing. And in a world where technology is growing so rapidly, every few years there's something new to be learned, right? The role, Nagamaya sir, that academia plays in this, right? Because one thing that Ashok sir said that, okay, I cannot send my people outside the factory once they've come in, because it's the companies are small, so sending them out for skilling outside is not possible, right? So how does academia work with industry to enable upskilling on the job?
Yeah, I think I'm not fully academia because I am a research institute. I won't offer any academic degree programs, but otherwise training with the HR development is one of the vertical. See, what is missing in academic school is either in the name of digitization or we embrace the technology. A lot of compromise happened in terms of practice-based learning. Because we all, at least our generation people, still appreciate the chalk-based blackboard classroom. The way of learning was so effective compared to today's, because faculties goes, he shows about 40 minutes presentation, is hours. Possibly is covered about 60, 70 slides. By that 1 hour, possibly there are 100 peeps mobile sounds. Students must have got it. But internationally there is a survey. In a class of 45 minutes to 1 hour, the students remain attentive only 10 to 12 minutes. This is the best teacher is not who solve the differential equation on the noteboard. That is not required, no longer is required, at least that with AI and all. What is required is if teachers makes this 10 to 12 minutes to 30 minutes. So that only happens when you bring the case study, the practices to there in the classroom. And that happens only with the industry involvement. So unless industry, rather I would suggest should be made mandatory for all the faculty to spend at least a month or two in the industry in academic year. Because they have to upgrade themselves, because in majority cases, I'm from mechanical background, I can always blame myself. It so happened that in many, at least not in the Tier 1, at least in Tier 2 schools and Tier 3 schools, the manufacturing course is taught by a faculty who never operated a lathe. Because when he was in engineering school, it was a group, there was 10 people, they've shown, okay, this is a CNC machine, they came to institute like us. So that has happened. And unless he operates, he doesn't understand, right, what is the problem. I think that is a gap filling that all skilling, reskilling programs, Skill India and all the government has initiated. The only purpose is to impart the practice-based learning. We, CMTI, try to fill that gap as far as that, okay, we do a lot of R&D, then testing, inspection services, but on that, if I restrict myself on the training program, there are about 50 plus training programs annually we offer, and also corporate training program. So there you asked that, okay, industry, they don't want to send the people. Please don't send the people, we will come and teach you at your place. That is the opportunity, it is there. We have at least 25, 30 such programs we offer on the customized syllabus, courses and all. In terms of the training. And whatever the course we offer, 60 to 70% is a practice-based learning. We have created a laboratory, self-learning laboratories. I think such similar to us, there are several institutes. There are domain-specific institutes. I'm sure this is possible. The only lacuna, see, this generation kids are 100 times intelligent than our generation. The only is we need to give them an opportunity. I will tell you one my own experience. In CMTI, we organize once in a year an hackathon program, kind of an hackathon, but we won't call hackathon. It's called Design Innovation Clinic. No software. It should be electromechanical system hardware development. So you can't believe there's 5 editions we did. All the editions, within 30 hours, these kids made the prototype. So now I think there are several such examples. Maybe those are all the platforms where industry can support these students. So definitely we could able to build a resource, that is HR resource. That our current HR resource is only lacking in case of practice. You ask the definition of the least count, 70% of the students can able to answer. If you ask, okay, there is a vernier caliper having a least count of plus or minus 20 micron, and you measure the dimensions of 20 millimeter shaft diameter, recorded 19.997. These kids will lose. I think that is the only, this is applicable to all the domain. I think we need to fill this gap, and that possible when we industry research establishments where these opportunities are available. I think we need to pitch in, handhold at the academic schools.
Got it.
I want to add, and then I want to leave. See, the responsibility of people development is not only academia, as industries. Because people are the most valuable asset. From my experience, also from Bosch and other companies, is example in Bosch we used to have earlier micro vocational center and Bosch vocational center, and we have been developing people. Still this exists right from the blue collar, who is a trainee, and give it to industry back. And this is our primary ownership, so we cannot give it to academia. Point number 1. Point number 2, leadership today is as a coach, right from top to bottom. You cannot expect down